go ahead and unfold it, and once again, there's nothing on that side of the page. And then take the left-hand side of the paper and fold it towards that middle line. And then take the right-hand side of the paper and fold it towards the middle line. Now you should see all the pieces of equipment in front of you. To make the doors, what you need to do is take the top of the paper and fold it down towards the bottom, so you're folding it in half. So you take the top half of the paper and fold it down halfway. Okay, now all the pictures are gone again. And then you're going to take that piece of paper and fold it down one more time. And so basically what you have in your hand are, it's about the size of 2 squares. So when you unfold it, now each of the pieces of equipment has a fold underneath it. And that's the fold that you're going to cut to make the door. So unfold it, and then now you see all the pieces of equipment again. Take your scissors and cut from the middle, the open part, the middle part of the paper, and then cut towards the fold. And then you'll have 2, 4, 6, 8 different little doors with the equipment on the outside, and then when you open the door, the inside is blank. Okay? When you have all that ready, go ahead and we'll start the PowerPoint. Alright, the first piece of equipment is a beaker. And this is a picture of 3 different sizes of beakers. They do come in different sizes. They come in glass and they also come in plastic. You'll notice that if you look very carefully, you will see that they are made of Pyrex glass, which means that they are heat proof. So we could heat these up on some kind of heat source, like a Bunsen burner perhaps, or a hot plate. Now you'll also see that it has a little spout. Here's the spout, and that means that we can pour things from it. Now usually with the beaker, that is exactly what we do, is we either hold liquid or we pour them. They're not really very good for measuring, because if you look at the measurements here, they're not very accurate. This one goes by 10, so you have 20, 30, 40, 50, and so on. And then other ones, like here, this is even more spread out. This goes by 50s, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, and so on. So we can't really measure very accurately. So on the inside of the door, go ahead and open it up, and inside you're going to write the word beaker, and that it's used for holding and pouring liquids, not for measuring. Our next piece of equipment, or 2 of them actually on the same door, are test tubes and a flask. You notice that the flask has kind of a narrow top to it, and that is because we use both of these types of pieces of equipment to heat things in. This is also made of Pyrex glass, and when you have the shape like this, then it helps to not have things boil out. Okay? So on the inside, you'll write test tube flask. Both are used to hold or heat up substances, and this is also not for measuring. Okay. Our next piece of equipment are tongs or test tube holders. So you'll see here on that right hand picture that if you're heating up something in a test tube, you're certainly not going to hold it with your hand, so you end up using a test tube holder. And the picture at the top, see how it has kind of a wider opening, and that's so that you can hold the flask. So on the inside cover, go ahead and write test tube holder and tongs. we use to hold a test tube or flask when heating a substance, or if it's dangerous to touch. So maybe you're not holding it because whatever you're pouring into it, maybe it's an acid and you don't want to touch it at all, so you might use those tongs to pour it with instead. The next piece of equipment is a test tube rack. I wonder what we would use a test tube rack for. Well, we use them to organize and hold test tubes up or upright. So obviously we're not going to hold 6 test tubes in our hand while we do an experiment, so the test tube rack puts them in place for us. Alright, back up on the top on the right hand side we have a graduated cylinder. And the graduated cylinder, you can see that the measurements are much more accurate. Now we're going by ones, and sometimes you have to notice what they're going by. Sometimes it's ones, sometimes it's twos. Generally it's one though. So here we have 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, and so on. So now we can actually measure things very accurately. So the graduated cylinder we use to measure with. Now, when we measure something, you'll notice that the liquid has kind of this little dip in it like this. It has this band and it has a dip. This dip is called the meniscus. Here's the word right here, meniscus. And whenever you need to read a graduated cylinder, you would look at the bottom of the meniscus to see what the measurement would be. Okay, so inside our door, we're going to write that a graduated cylinder is used for measuring the volume of liquids in milliliters. Remember that we use the metric system in measurements, and to measure volume we use milliliters. The next piece of equipment is a thermometer, and we're probably all pretty familiar with thermometers. You notice that the first one is in Celsius and in Fahrenheit. We're used to dealing with Fahrenheit in the English system, but again in science we use the metric system, and in the metric system it is Celsius. The one on the left we would use mainly if we're measuring like surface temperature. The one on the right we would use if we needed to measure, say, a beaker full of a liquid of some kind. And on the inside door, go ahead and write thermometer, and it measures temperature in degrees Celsius. Next we have an eyedropper. You've probably all used an eyedropper at some point, and mainly we use an eyedropper to transfer small quantities of liquids. So maybe we don't want to pour a huge amount into a test tube. Maybe we just want to add just one drop of something at a time. So we would use an eyedropper if we wanted to only measure very small quantities of liquids, or to transfer small quantities of liquids. And our last piece of equipment is called a triple beam balance. So a balance is used to measure weight, and in this case we are measuring mass. Now the balance on the left hand side, this is the part where you would put the item that you want to measure. And on the right hand side there's actually a needle here, which I know is very difficult to see, but it's called the pointer. And there's also a line here, and the idea is to match the pointer up to the line. And when you have something on the scale, the pointer actually goes up. As the scale goes down, the pointer goes up. And then we use these weights on this side, we scoot them over until this pointer goes back down and is even with the line. So what we do is we start out, if you look at the bottom picture, you'll see the 3 beams right there, and you see that they come in different measurements. The one in the middle is the biggest, and it goes by hundreds of grams, so 100 gram, 200, 300, so on. The one in the back goes by 10 grams, and the one in the front goes by 1 gram or even 1/10 of a gram. So what you would do is you would put something down on the scale, and you would start in the middle. You would see that, oh, I'm pointing up at the top there. You see the circle? That's the pointer I was talking about. Would go up, and then looking down at the bottom picture, the first one you would move would be the middle one, which is by the hundreds. So you see if it's 100 grams, and if it's too much, then we know we need to go back one, and now we're going to go by 10 grams. So we'd go to the one in the back. And then we would scoot it over as many times as we could until it wasn't too heavy. And then we would go to the front, which is by 1 gram or 1/10 of a gram, until we got exactly the measurement that we needed. So that needle would be even with the line. Once we did that, to find out what the total mass of our object would be, we would add up the beam number 1, number 2, and number 3. So go ahead and add up those 3 numbers. We have 300, we have 40, and we have 7. So either in your head on a piece of paper, just real quick, add those up, and I'm going to give you the answer here in a second. We'll see if you're right. Did you get 347? Now don't forget that it's in grams, so you need to have that G next to it. 347 grams is how much this particular item's mass is. Alright, on the inside, go ahead and write triple beam balance, and it is used to measure mass in grams. Alright, we are finished with our lab equipment notes. Go ahead and glue your notes into page 5 of your notebook. Don't forget that you need to fold up the bottom 2 doors so that your paper will fit onto the page. That's it. Have a good one.